He accidentally kissed his mortal enemy while drunk, and his older brother lost control and went berserk. On a summer evening, a party is underway at a hillside villa on the island. The atmosphere is lively, and the lighting is dim and ambiguous. On the 3-story corridor, two figures were entwined. Like the noisy atmosphere downstairs, only the two of them were on the third floor. The sound of each other's breathing was clearly audible. Faint sounds of music drifted up from downstairs, soft and muffled. In the hallway, they kissed passionately, unable to tell whose heart was beating faster. Li Xia's legs felt a bit weak from the kiss, and she leaned back against the wall. Even so, the young man before her showed no sign of letting her go. A strong hand rested on her slender waist. Amid the interwoven breaths, the young man's pleasant voice carried a slight rasp, its trailing notes languid and alluring. I just confessed my feelings to my brother, and now you're giving me a passionate kiss, miss. Are you really sure this is what you want? Huh? As he spoke, he leaned in and danced softly in her ear. Xia, do you know who I am? The young man, restrained and self-disciplined, gently put some distance between them. His handsome fox-like eyes fixed on her. No emotion was visible, yet his voice carried a subtly persuasive tone. Xia hooked her arm around his neck. Her cheeks flushed with a blush and drinking of alcohol. She spoke in a commanding tone. No matter who you are, keep kissing me. Don't stop. The young man shook his head in exasperation, amused by her spoiled and willful demeanor. He gently cupped Li Xia's face, his tone tinged with a hint of seriousness. Xia, don't mistake me for my older brother. Look closely. In Juicy Henjong, Li Xia felt dizzy, and her feet felt light and airy. She nodded absently, but, in reality, she hadn't given it a single thought. I just want to keep kissing you the way we were just now. She proactively tiptoed and tilted her head back, almost throwing herself into Zhu Qingyang's arms, carelessly inhaling the uniquely pleasant scent of the young man. The refreshing flavor is mingled with a subtle hint of alcohol, creating an indescribably alluring aroma. Juicy Henjong simply couldn't bear Li Xia's overly proactive behavior right in front of him. My breathing is becoming increasingly erratic. He could tell himself that he couldn't keep kissing any longer. HES already starting to lose control. Just kissing without doing anything else too extreme. If this keeps going, I might really not be able to help myself and end up using her roughly in every possible position, for days on end. At the age of 18, it's only natural to have impulsive thoughts and a desire to taste the forbidden fruit. However, Juicy Henjong clearly knew that now was not the right time. At the very least, when she's awake, it also has to be something she genuinely wants. Although Juicy Henjong usually adopts a carefree and unbothered approach in his daily life, but in a situation like this, he definitely doesn't want to take advantage of someone's vulnerability. Seeing that Juicy Henjong was slow to respond, Li Xia grew slightly annoyed. She impatiently pushed the boy sitting in front of her away. The guys chasing after me could line up all the way to France. If you're not going to kiss me, then forget it, you'll just find someone else. Before Li Xia could finish speaking, Juicy Henjong grabbed her wrist and pulled her into his arms in one swift motion. Before she could finish speaking, Juicy Henjong kissed her. This kiss was full of intensity, leaving her absolutely no chance to refuse. You're not allowed to go see anyone else. I'll be your dog, do whatever you want with me. Treat me however you please. A scorching kiss came rushing in, and Li Xia was nearly suffocated by it, but she couldn't resist, she could only surrender. A warm evening breeze blew through the corridor, carrying the scent of summer. In the haze, a young boy's soft, delicate laughter drifted into my ears. Li Xia, I really don't know what to do with you. Since you, miss, stole my first kiss, you'll have to take responsibility for it, you know. Just as the two were passionately kissing, Footsteps echoed from the staircase not far away. NXIA, are you upstairs? A deep male voice rang out, its tone gradually drawing nearer. After getting drunk, Li and XIA became a bit dazed. Fortunately, Zhu Si Hanzhong reacted quickly and swiftly opened the door behind him. I took her into the room, and that's how we managed to avoid being spotted. The sound of the door closing was particularly loud in the quiet hallway. Hearing the sound, the man immediately quickened his pace and walked over. Inside the room, Zhu Si Hanzhong pressed the person against the door panel and softly coaxed her ear. "Be good. Don't make a sound." Lian Xi's brain wasn't working at all. She felt dazed and disoriented. Those large, unblinking eyes were now gazing at him with a look of confusion, slightly puzzled yet still obediently nodding their heads. The sound of footsteps gradually drew near and finally came to a halt in front of the door. The next second, the door to the room was knocked on. "NXIA, are you in there?" The man's voice from outside the door carried a note of hesitation. Zhu Si Hanzhong casually spoke toward the outside. "Who's that? Disturbing my sleep?" "Part Y is downstairs." Xu Chengyang's voice was languid and nonchalant, showing absolutely no sign of anything unusual. Hearing Zhu Chengyang's voice, the man outside the door cleared his throat once and then spoke slowly. "Xiao Cheng is me, Xu Jing." Zhu Si Hanzhong paused for a moment, pretending to just now notice the other person's voice, unresponded in a drawn out, nonchalant tone. "Oh, it's you, brother. Is there something you need?" "Nothing. I was just wondering if you've seen Neo Nha. I'm looking for her," Zhu Jing replied. Hearing this, Zhu Si Hanzhong glanced at Lian Xia, who had been kissed into a limp state in his arms. Zhu Si Hanzhong gently wiped away the lipstick smudged at the corner of her lips, left there by his own kiss while raising an insinuating, mischievous grin. "I haven't seen her. Doesn't she follow behind you every single day, like your little shadow? How would I know?" "Where is she?" Xu Qing's eyebrows slightly arched, and his slender, pale minus white fingers gently lifted Lian Xi's chin. Then, still leisurely, he continued toward the door, saying, "Even the older brother can't find her sometimes. How strange." Looking at the reddened corners of her eyes, still moist from her recent tears, Zhu Chengyang's tone remained light and teasing, yet his eyes held a hint of something else, something deeper, more complex. Suppressing the anger, she narrowed her eyes slightly. "Let me guess. Did you do something to upset her, so she's been avoiding you and refusing to see you?" Outside the door, Zhu Jing was speechless at his words and for a moment didn't know what to say at all. Because Zhu Chengyang's guess was completely correct. Today's party is being held to celebrate the successful admission of Lian Xia, Zhu Si Hanzhong, and others to their dream universities. Almost all of my peers from the circle were there. Everyone is enjoying the revelry after the college entrance exam. Zhu Jing is 8 years older than the group, including Lian Xia and Zhu Si Hanzhong, and has always disliked attending their gatherings. He wouldn't have come today if it hadn't been for Lian Xia's strong invitation. However, what Zhu Jing hadn't expected was that Lian Xia would actually confess her feelings for him publicly at the party tonight. Originally, Lian Xia was fully confident that she could win over Zhu Jing in today's confession. After all, having grown up together for so many years, Lian Xia could clearly sense that Zhu Jing felt something for her. Its uniqueness. For all these years, aside from her, no other members of the opposite sex have ever appeared around Zhu Jing. She had originally thought that all it took between her and Zhu Jing was to break through that thin layer of glass. Lian Xia knew Zhu Jing all too well. Hud always been a cold, aloof beauty, aloof and proud, with extremely thin skin. Naturally, Hud ever be the one to take the first step in confessing his feelings. Since that's the case, then let her be the one to say. So, during the summer vacation after graduating from high school, she carefully prepared a high-profile confession. What no one could have ever anticipated was that, Faced with Lian Xia's confession, Zhu Jing's eyes were filled with surprise, his expression complex, and in the end, he coldly and distantly rejected her. "NXIA, stop teasing me. I've always treated you only like a little sister." As Lian Xia, her eyes red with resentment, was about to ask a question, Zhu Jing sharply interrupted her in an even harsher tone. "Enough, Lian Xia. Stop crossing the line." In full view of everyone, Zhu Jing's actions tonight showed absolutely no respect for Li and Xia. It was also the first time in Zhu Jing's many years that she had encountered this kind of attitude from him. Li and Xia has always been the center of attention, but when she was publicly rejected, she suddenly found herself wishing she were completely invisible. The more flamboyant the confession, the more awkward the rejection. Thanks to the timely intervention of my close friend and others, the matter was quickly put behind us. Under the influence of alcohol and music, the atmosphere quickly heated up, and the party continued. Everyone seemed to have already forgotten the unpleasant little incident from just a moment ago. But Li and Xia was well aware that once she returned to Beijing, the news of her public confession of love for Zhu Jing and her subsequent rejection would spread throughout the entire upper-class social circle. She'll also become the laughingstock of the circle. Having been pampered and doted on since childhood and raised like a precious jewel, Lian Xia is a quintessential little princess of Beijing's social circles. She's never had to endure such humiliation before. The more she thought about it, the more distressed she became. Lian Xia tried to get herself drunk in an attempt to forget what had just happened. Tonight's party is being held at a beachfront villa on an island previously. They've often flown here from China for vacations as well. Lian Xia was thoroughly drunk. To get away from the crowd downstairs, she slipped quietly to the third floor by herself. I happened to run into Jusi Hanjiang, who was quietly drinking alone on the third-floor terrace. Then, what happened next occurred, perhaps out of pique or perhaps under the influence of alcohol. She kissed Jusi Hanjiang. This is Li and Xia's first kiss. I had originally intended it for Zhu Jing, but I never expected. Lian Xia admitted that she was a total visual. This young man in front of her was even more handsome than Zhu Jing. Giving him my first kiss isn't such a bad deal after all. But she was drunk and completely failed to recognize that the person standing before her was Zhu Jing's half-minus brother, the young master of the Zhu family, Jusi Hanjiang. He is also Lian Xia's lifelong archenemy, from childhood all the way through adulthood. Completely opposite to his older brother Zhu Jing, Jusi Hanjiang has an outgoing, mischievous, unconventional, and unruly personality. The Lian Zhu families have been close friends for generations, and Lian Xia grew up alongside the two young masters from the Zhu family. One of the two brothers is the person Lian Xia has secretly admired for years, while the other is the one she hates the most. There's no doubt that Jusi Hanjiang is the latter. If she were fully awake, Lian Xia would absolutely never get involved with Jusi Hanjiang, not to mention a passionate kiss on the lips. But at this moment, the drunken Lian Xia was being held in Zhu Chengyang's arms, her gaze fixed intently on his lips. My mind was a complete blur, and all I could feel was how soft his lips were. Very good. Dear didn't get enough kisses. Completely unaware, Zhu Jing outside the house was anxiously searching for her at this very moment. Inside the room, Jusi Hanjiang looked down at Lian Xia, whose eyes were glazed and cheeks flushed red. He gently traced her reddened lips with his fingertips, then whispered toward the door, "Brother, she really isn't here with me. Why don't you go look somewhere else?" Zhu Jing outside the door remained silent for a few seconds, and the sound of footsteps gradually faded into the distance. Now that the confirmer had left, Jusi Hanjiang breathed a sigh of relief. He lowered his gaze to Lian Xia, who was still staring at his lips in a daze, and couldn't help but chuckle softly. "What are you looking at? Aren't you tired of staring yet?" Lian Xia was pulled back to her senses by his voice. She frowned in annoyance and reached out to hook her fingers around his neck. One more kiss. Zhu Chengyang's Adam's apple bobbed as he took hold of her restless hand, his tone laced with both exasperation and indulgence. Lian Xia, do you know who you're talking to? Her hand was held by his, yet it still cowled and stay still. Her fingertips gently scratched the palm of his hand. With a voice laced with intoxication, she said softly, "Whoever he is, just kiss me already." This statement utterly shattered Zhu Shenyang's composure. He leaned forward and kissed her again, this time with even greater intensity, biting her as if to punish her. Yet, when she winced in pain, he immediately softened his touch, gently soothing her with tender care. Moonlight streaming through the sheer curtains outside the window falls upon the intertwined figures of the two people, filling the room with an ambivalent atmosphere. After who knew how long, Lian Xia finally grew tired and nestled into Zhu Chengyang's arms. Falling fast asleep, Jusi Henjong held her close, leaning against the headboard. His fingertips gently brushed across her eyebrows and eyelids. His eyes filled with a tenderness unlike any HED ever felt before. He knew that from the moment she took the initiative to kiss him on that night when she turned 18, HED never be able to let her go again. The party downstairs had long since ended, and the villa was utterly silent. Xu Jing returned to the living room, his face darkened menacing, the cigarette in his hand crushed beyond recognition. He never could have imagined that, simply because HED turned down Lian Qi's confession, she had become so unwilling to see him, even going so far as to hide herself in Zhu Chengyang's room. Just thinking about Zhu Chengyang's tone just now in that phrase, "your little tail," made him feel incredibly irritated. No way. HED always treated Lian Xia like a younger sister, but tonight, her actions made him feel out of control for the first time. Early the next morning, Lian Xia was awakened by the sunlight. She rubbed her aching head, slowly opened her eyes, and was momentarily stunned to see an unfamiliar ceiling. Last night's memories surged in like a tide, my confession being rejected, being first minus fed alcohol, that passionate kiss in the third minus floor hallway. And then there was that young man's face. Lian Xia sat up abruptly, glanced around, and realized she was lying on a large, unfamiliar bed. The clothes she was wearing were still the same ones from last night, but they carried a faint, refreshing scent of mint. She pulled back the covers and got out of bed. Just as she reached the door, she heard the sound of running water coming from the bathroom. The next second, the bathroom door opened, and Jusi Henjong stepped out wearing a bathrobe. His hair was soaking wet, and droplets of water slid down his sharply defined jawline as his Adam's apple bobbed gently. Our eyes met, and the air seemed to freeze in an instant. Lian Qi's face turned red in an instant. The wild scenes from last night after she had gotten drunk kept replaying in her mind over and over again. She wished she could just crawl into a crack in the ground and disappear. Awake? Jusi Henjong raised an eyebrow, his tone laced with teasing. "Last night, you did something to me, a lot of things." Lian Xia opened her mouth but didn't know what to say. She just blushed and lowered her head. "I'm sorry, I drank too much last night. It wasn't on purpose." Jusi Henjong took a step closer to her, backing her into the corner of the wall. He placed his hand against the wall beside her, leaned down, and his nose almost touched her forehead. "You're saying it wasn't intentional? Then when you kissed me, weren't you pretty proactive?" Eileen Shi's heart was beating so fast it felt like it was about to leap out of her chest. She could only turn her face away, just pretend nothing ever happened. "Okay. Never happened?" Jusi Henjong chuckled softly, his fingertips gently cupping her chin and forcing her to look at him. "Lian Xia, you stole my first kiss and now you're trying to deny it?" Lian Xia was left speechless by his question. Looking into the earnestness in his eyes, she panicked and stammered then. "Then what do you want?" Jusi Henjong leaned close to her ear, his voice low and suggestive. "It's simple, be responsible for me." Just then, the door was knocked on, and Zhu Jing's voice came through an Xia. "Are you in there?" Lian Shi's face turned pale, and she instinctively shrank back behind Jusi Henjong. Zhu Xihanzhong glanced at her, a hint of possessiveness flashing in his eyes. He turned around, opened the door, and spoke in a cold tone. Dan, brother, is there something wrong? Xu Jing's gaze swept past him and fell upon Lian Xia, who was hiding behind him. His expression instantly darkened. An Xia come out. Lian Xia bit her lip and slowly walked out, not daring to meet Xu Jing's eyes. Xu Jing looked at her reddened eyes and disheveled hair, his voice laced with suppressed anger. Were you with him last night? Lian Xia remained silent. But Zhu Xihanzhong stepped forward and placed himself protectively behind her, his tone laced with defiance. Brother, just mine now. Zhu Jing suddenly glared at Zhu Xihanzhong with a sinister look in his eyes. What did you just say? Listen. Zhu Xihanzhong took Lian Xia's hand and said slowly, one word at a time, Lian Xia. From now on, he'll be the one to take care of you. Lian Xia. I looked up at the boy beside her. His back appeared especially straight and upright in the morning light, giving her an inexplicable sense of peace and reassurance. She knew that from this moment on, there was no going back between her and Xu Jing, and her story with Zhu Xihanzhong has just begun.